Welcome to Drivers Talk Radio, hosted by automotive expert and championship-winning race car driver Rick Titus. Join Rick, co-host Jay Dalton, and their team for informative and entertaining discussions geared for automotive enthusiasts and consumers alike. Enjoy in-depth interviews with industry leaders and influencers. Now, originating from its studio headquarters inside Shelby American in Las Vegas, it's time for Drivers Talk Radio and Rick Titus.
And welcome to Drivers Talk. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Rick Titus. We are, of course, coming to you from Shelby American, our studio, and we are so blessed. It's right here in the middle of their museum. The tours are free. It's just off the strip. You got to come down here. The gift shop has good stuff as opposed to the garbage the Hoover Dam sells. I rant on that because I think it's pathetic that something so important as a landmark has junk, most of it from countries you've never heard of. And, of course, joining me in studio, the producer of the program, and a friend for 51 years. If you can imagine that, I hadn't killed him. And that, of course, is Jay Dalton. How you doing, buddy?
Yes, I've avoided death again this week.
Usually you say cheated.
cheated death. Thank you, Ricky.
Yeah, one more time. And my father didn't kill either one of us back in the day.
Could have.
Oh, boy. And then, of course, my stepson and a very talented young man who's come a long way at doing this.
Hey.
Our co-producer and, of course, the editor of this show. And that, of course, is Spencer Crick. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I'm a little winded. I did some light jogging this morning. SEMA week.
Oh, SEMA week. Oh, you're getting ready? What's 39 miles of aisles amongst friends? And then, of course, special guest friend, and you've heard his name on the show before. You've heard him on the show before, but a very close personal friend, and that, of course, is Steve Mank. Thank you for taking the time to come over here from the hall.
This is part of my excuse of SEMA week. I got to get my butt over here, and hopefully Rick will have me for 5 minutes.
Well, you're roped for longer than that. There's no 5 minutes with Steve Mank. It just doesn't happen. So much going on. Jay, you did a clever thing, and they are very close with Dave Kindick. You did a thing where you did that pop quiz.
Kind of a lightning round.
It was. This is the other guy you could do that with.
I could. The lightning round, like, do you prefer tuck and roll or pleated? Do you chrome rims or billet? And it went on. I had 10
but
or 12
It doesn't have to be a one-word answer, does it?
No.
Do I get a little explanation?
No. But he really did good.
Yeah.
He fired through it like hot rod.
He was almost briefed, ready to go with that one.
That would have been Kevin.
Yeah. Oh, boy. But they're going to introduce me to Kevin, too.
Good.
I don't think we've in person met Dave. Only on the air.
You mean Kevin? Kevin?
But Dave Kindick, I don't think we've.
Oh no, we've not met in person. Dave Kindick from Kindick Designs, Bitch and Rides.
You know that's one of our
phenomenal
shows.
Phenomenal shop.
Oh man,
voted by this radio show number one in automotive reality. Number one.
Yeah, Dave built some very, very high quality stuff, and I still judge. I'm lucky enough to get to judge a handful of very high end competitions around the country throughout the year, and I've had more than a handful.
Is that
of
how you
Dave's
feel in
creations.
the idle time, Steve? Is it
Idle time?
Yeah.
Idle time. Is that a show? Is that
Would
a
you
TV show?
Yeah, for dead people.
Yeah. But and the stuff that Dave has brought us in competition has placed every time. Every time. I mean, it's incredible stuff.
So Steve Mank, what kind of shows do you judge? I'm just curious. Throw out a couple of names so that people know where you've been.
I do stuff with ISCA, which most people would know outside those initials, is the Autorama's World of Wheels and stuff all over the country. Retired from only because it went away. We did, some friends of mine and I did Super Chevy Magazine, all the Super Chevy Sunday, Super Chevy Show for over 20 years. I do a lot of independent shows now, a lot of charity work, but I do Hot August Nights, which is
That's become
phenomenal monster, in the automotive world, and is actually our cup and award program at that show is the largest in competition in the United States. Very, very prominent award, which everyone does know the name of, which is the Riddler Award out of Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Our prize package surpasses that with that quality of automobile.
Wait a minute.
By
Hot August Nights gives a better award than the Riddler?
Yeah, we have cars now that are being purpose built for ours. In the Riddler competition, which is still the biggest, best, most prominent award in our custom car industry,
you bet.
Pays $10,000, and it's never about the money. I mean, you see the creations that go into those awards. It's not about the money. because that tag wouldn't cover the chrome on these
that's
cars.
spillage,
But
yeah.
what they do is the first place wins $10,000 and everything that goes with winning the Riddler competition. We have turned our program into a credible venue now. This is coming up here will be the third year that I've supervised the judging crew. Our prize package is over $110,000. Our third place car pays more than the Riddler.
All right, I'm bringing my Corvair next year, and we'll split it if we.
Boy, as a car show judge, how many times have I heard that
I
offer?
bet you've heard that line.
Hey,
I want to
we
tell you
need,
something.
wait, we need to explain what we've been talking about. Hold on. The Riddler Award is given at the Detroit Autorama show.
Autorama.
Yep.
That comes, if I'm not mistaken, it's in February or March of.
Yeah,
of,
it's right, depending on how the schedules fall, it's end of February, beginning of March every year. And
Because
it's
the
been
weather is
around
so
since
nice
the early
in Detroit,
60s.
yeah.
It's been around since the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff that has come out of that show as winners is just, well, you've seen some of the
Well, you
cars,
gave me the
especially like the
tour.
Imposter and stuff, which
Yeah.
because of friends of mine own it and built it.
Yep.
You spent a lot of time with it with me. The forced quality of car that award has brought to this program because of what it takes just to qualify to make what they call the grade 8 it has turned is one of the big reasons why it has turned this into such a huge competitive market inside custom cars.
Those 8 finalists. Now,
No, I want to make a point here. You can't just push a car onto a stand
Oh, no.
for the Riddler.
No.
It's got to start. It's got to go into gear.
Yeah, even in our competition, and any of the major shows anymore, because back in the 70s, when it was all about the show, people didn't care so much. But because of radio shows, because of reality TV, because of the level of competition, these cars now have to prove operability. At a minimum, but it is a set minimum. You come into the show, you show up either at Hot August or Detroit or the Roadster Show in Pomona, whatever the big ones are. You come in, the car has to fire. Like you said, it has to go in and out of gear. The brake system has to
That's
work.
right. Brakes have to work too.
And you do this for a minimal amount of time, at a minimal distance, you're in. If you do not do one of those things, sorry, you're in the regular competition. You cannot compete
So the
for
push queens
$100,000. It's
compete
out. No,
at this level.
That is gone. And I have seen some very prominent builders show up last minute because it's always a crunch, just like at SEMA, to get these things done. Be disqualified legitimately and have spent years literally building these cars and told, no, we have our playing field and you knew it and you didn't make it. You're in the show, put it in your display, but you were not in competition.
Bad day to be the messenger.
Yeah, that's not a fun job because I've been there. That is not a fun job.
Now, Hot August Nights. Let's review that for our audience here. We're talking about Reno, aren't we?
Yes.
This is Reno, Nevada. It obviously happens in August, but
Yeah.
Well, you put that
That
together.
was I did
Nothing
put that
gets
together.
by you.
Hey,
Is he sharp or
He's great.
what?
I'm an amateur. Wow.
that used to be a fairly local, kind of small
That
town.
ship
Very much so.
And
Now,
what has happened to that?
all of them, because of the continually raising level of competition for their Cup award, all of the major casinos, which now I believe is 5, have all contributed to this. They all have individual shows. This starts like on Monday or Tuesday prior to the weekend, which is the big show. And all of the major casinos have their individual shows in the evening at their facility and will give away a few $100s, a few $1,000s every night of the week. And these guys go from venue to venue to venue. And what it's done is it's brought in so many cars, and even just a regular driver level car. And there's almost 7,000 cars in Reno, the littlest town up there, for a whole week. And it's just craziness.
It is. I'm telling you, Walt was telling us, our friend, a former, and you may know Walt Clark, a little 63 Falcon, retired Ford engineer, and he was saying, I went up there and he was sharing with us, it's hard to explain how large this show has become.
Can you go on a mobile stance and come up there and do the show from up there, like in the lobby of one of the casinos
We
once?
need to do that.
You could eat up a whole week. I mean,
But you got to be involved.
oh, absolutely. We're there for the whole week. We're working. Well,
I think it'd be fun to
I
do.
might know a couple of people that we could fill some radio time with.
You think? You think you know a few people? But I want to tell you something about Steve Mank. I was all new to this stuff. I knew race cars, knew a few exotic cars. He says, if you'll come to Autorama, I'll show you how to do this show. That car.
Are you talking about the Imposter?
Yeah.
It's the people, first of all, that own that car, that paid to have that car built, are very, very dear friends of ours from up in the west coast of Canada. And big car family has been their whole lives. They work their butts off. They have the means, and they build this car called the Imposter, which is a 65 Impala built by Foose Design. So right there, that will tell you something.
Yeah, we just opened the door. I'm serious.
Here we got enough time left in this segment to cover all this?
Not this segment, no.
A minute and a half, but we're going to go on to Imposter in the next segment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because
Sure.
it deserves the time.
But I go to Autorama. I'm new to it. He goes, okay, you don't need to go over there. You don't need to go over there. Let me show you and introduce you to the right people. I'm laying underneath the car. It's the builder. It's with Steve. And they're pointing things out. It's scary good. You know what I mean? It's scary good. Then, because I think I could possibly afford one, I say, Steve, I want to go look at the rat rods. And he goes, I won't go with you. And they've ruined it. And I'm like, they've ruined it? He goes,
already?
They're no longer affordable. And obviously it's nothing he could do, but it's nothing he does do, because I'm not going down there with you. I just won't do it. So I go down there, I come back, and he's got, I told you so, written all over.
What do you
the
remember?
frame.
It was so many years ago. I really couldn't even tell you how many. You and I had a conversation, and we had a discussion about rat rods and how scary dangerous some of them were because of what they were made out of and how they were built.
Yeah.
And the conversation I had with you at the time was, let it be. Watch what happens to it. It's going to evolve. And it didn't even take as long as the conversation you and I thought it was going to.
Fast.
Oh, my Lord, yeah. It's become designer.
It was just so fun because Steve will do anything, and he goes, "You're going down there by yourself." I'm not doing it. That said, AM/FM listeners, we will be right back. Please join us in just a moment. And welcome back. Rick Titus, Jay Dalton, Spencer Crick, and a guy that we lean on for a lot of information, usually in an area so lofty in terms of what we're qualified to talk about, but a longtime friend and a great guy to have on the show, and that, of course, is Steve Mank. He does bring with him his lovely bride.
Always. Especially if you guys follow us on social media.
Oh, my God.
If Tane is not along,
yeah,
it's
just you're
boring.
miserable. You're miserable. I mean, this woman's got a personality. It makes flowers bloom 4 months early. She walks in a room, the candles will light themselves.
Oh yeah, it's like.
Yep, great lady. And somehow she's made it her job to record your doings, which I wouldn't want that responsibility.
Yeah, unless there's enough money to cover that one.
Yeah, and we probably ought to stop here before it gets really expensive.
But you know, all kidding aside, what's really amazing is that if Tana, for whatever reason, stops covering stuff and 2 or 3 days go by,
people get curious.
People go, "Are you guys okay?"
That's the first question.
Are you guys at home doing nothing? In which that gets coverage too, but people will go.
All right, but now I'm going to get you in a little bit of marital trouble potentially.
Uh-oh.
This man can build a car from scratch. I mean, it's like Chuck Beck. Slide food under door, come back in a month, there's going to be the outline of a car. And you just tell him what kind of car you want. Yep. I mean, Batmobile, come on. I mean, the guy can build anything. How's Tana's little Volkswagen doing?
It seems to be okay, I think.
I'm going to go to Tana now. Is your bug running?
Yeah.
Yay!
We did, but you were. I wonder what path you were chasing me down here, because earlier this year, it wasn't. It sat for a long time.
Yes.
It sat for 2 years. 2 years. We're so busy.
I know. I know the excuse. Yeah. But I was scared for you when you have your skill set and she don't have a car.
But we dug it out late summer, and of course, when it sits for a couple of years, okay, first we check the fuel system, then you put a battery in it, and all the stuff you got to do, And we actually drove it back into its hibernating spot just before we came here.
Here, Tana's had 2 ceremonies in her life: when she married you and when she married that car. They're not going away.
Oh no. We thought, because we have so many things going on, because we have a small stable of cars. Tana actually thought about, and me too, thought about selling the Bug one time because it's such a nice little car and everything. This was a few years ago, and so many people are always asking, would you sell that Volkswagen? And Tana came to wherever she was at, and she said, yeah, I think I'll sell the car because we don't do nothing with it, and I'd like to see somebody else use it. I'd like to see somebody else get some enjoyment of it because we've got our Mustangs and other
This
stuff.
is all hyperbole because it would have never left that very long
Let me
driveway.
tell you what happened. We took it to a show, and the girl that went to the bank to get the money was showing up at Autorama to pick it up. Sunday night, my wife lost it, and I had to go tell this poor girl she wasn't getting
I knew
her
this couldn't
Volkswagen.
happen.
She wasn't getting her Volkswagen, and I got yelled at and screamed at, and I gave her check back and everything else. And it's still at home.
I knew there couldn't be an execution on this. It wasn't going to happen.
No, it didn't happen.
What I would love to do, Jay, we want to get into what Mank's up to at SEMA, because Mank is always up to something. But a lightning round of kind of different news items that kind of progress. I'll give you an idea. Myers Manx, what's your take?
I love them, and I got to find one.
Desperate stuff, isn't it?
It's not an easy thing to find.
But what an icon car. A
the
gimmicky,
name alone.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, is that the deal?
Oh, well,
How
for me.
selfish was that? Baja Bugs. Would you ever cut up a Volkswagen and turn it into a Baja Bug?
Only if the car had already come to some state of disarray. Yeah. And it's not even about the Baja Bug. It's any car for any purpose. If you have a survivor car or a decent car of any collectability, I want the car that's only 55% left that can't be taken back before you do that kind of transformation.
You're restoring a Metro for the Titus family. You put the raw body up on a trailer that's kind of elevated so it allows you to get to it.
Wow, really? We're going back to that?
Yep. You park it in front of your shop.
Yes, I did.
Leave for a few minutes.
Hours.
And come back. It's not there.
No, it was late at night, and I parked it in front of my shop, and from my shop down on the ranch down to the pond is probably 200 or 300 yards.
It's a jaunt.
Big pond. And I had it on the rotisserie, which was about a 4-foot lift, on top of my trailer, which is about a 2-foot
And let's
lift.
go with thank God it was on there.
Oh, my gosh. So I come back, and it's nighttime, and as I park the car, I'm walking towards the house, all of a sudden a light bulb goes off in my head, and I realize the trailer's gone. Where's Rick's car? And I go back out there with a flashlight, and I'm looking for tire tracks. I'm going, okay, we got to figure this out. And I went, oh, no. And I shined the flashlight down to the pond. Two things amazed me at that point. First, that it didn't get stolen because it would have been so easy to take on the trailer. And the second one, it went all the way down this hill in the grass through the field without turning or spinning the trailer and flipping it over. And it went so far out into the pond, all you could see was the car.
His body, the car.
It looked like it's floating in this pond.
And it was bare metal. It had just come back from the blasters.
It was blasted.
So basically, that Metro got its own launch, its own
did it
maiden
ever.
voyage.
It was, then you should have seen,
I'd like to have heard his heart rate.
yeah, it was like a rabbit.
I'm sure you said to yourself, no one is going to believe this.
Well,
They are not
Tana goes, well, because it's dark, it's late at night, there's no light down near the pond. She goes, okay, well, we'll take care of this first thing in the morning. And I went, oh, no. I hooked my Explorer up, and I backed it down to the pond, and I pulled it all the way to the edge to where I could actually see the trailer, and I left it hooked to the Explorer, and I went into the house and went to bed, knowing that it was not going to go any farther out into the pond. Yeah.
But only Mankster could have these kind of things happen.
Yeah.
A couple of quick questions, lightning round questions for you, Steve. Steve Mank, would you ever put a different motor in a different car, meaning a Chevy motor in a Ford or a Chrysler in a Metro?
Have many times.
Many times. So motor swap?
Mostly with cars for a numbers matching car for a thing of any significant value because of that American muscle car market, no. But I've taken many cars that were 6-cylinder cars and V8'd them with whatever loyalty the owner had as far as driveline.
Okay.
A Ford into a Rambler, sometimes a Chevy into a Ford into a Chevy. But if I'll tell you about one that we brought here to SEMA, if you want to save it for the next segment.
No, go.
We brought to SEMA a 1940s Plymouth pickup truck. And it is powered by and does run, now this is the motor swap of motor swaps. It has a Pratt Whitney radial airplane engine in it.
I've recently seen this. I think
It
there's
is-
a YouTube
oh, yes.
now.
It's phenomenal.
YouTube of this radial engine Plymouth pickup truck.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
All right, so practicality was not one of the deltas.
Absolutely not. But it's been to Bonneville already.
Had it really?
Yes, it's been to Bonneville already.
It got flight clearance.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And even if you get a chance to see the truck anywhere around the nation in the upcoming year, especially starting at SEMA this week, the inside of it is even done up as a correct era 40s, early 50s aircraft cockpit with dual wheels, pedal assemblies. I mean, everything on both sides of it. It's unreal. It's all bare metal. It's all finished metal.
How do you
It's
connect a
riveted.
Pratt Whitney to a driveline, though? How do you get an airplane engine?
This is what's really amazing is Gary Korn, the guy that built the car, who owns a wrecking yard in Denver, Colorado, is as crazy as I am. He made a gearbox off the back of the shaft that comes out of this motor to adapt it to a Turbo 400 Chevy automatic transmission right into a standard drive shaft and rear axle.
I mean, given the nature of the project, I'm not shocked you're involved. I've known you a long time.
Thank you, I think.
Yeah, right. Well, you're my 911 call. I'm just shocked that you end up in these kind of things. But and it doesn't break stuff. It doesn't make so much torque as the.
No, Gary, it runs, it drives. It's been in parades. We've done stuff with Phillips 66 because of their old aircraft history. They have
I didn't even know they had
adopted this car. Oh, I'm talking about way back when they were one of their main markets was aircraft fuel and stuff back in the 50s and 60s and that. And we've had everybody. Gary's not going to go out and just take it to a drag strip and see how fast will it go. But it handles well, it drives well. All you got to do is put up with that motor sitting in front of you running. And if you've ever heard one of these motors run, I mean, it's art, but it's not quiet.
All right, but I went to jet engine school in Memphis, Tennessee. The recip school was on the same property. That's a total loss oil system.
Oh, it's yes. And what's fun, like when we want to take it into shows, even though it runs, everybody says, yeah, fire it up, drive it in. Well, you can't because those radial motors, until they've actually started and get that circular rotation of pistons going, spits oil and smoke. And it's a little messy.
It's not a pretty thing.
Yeah, you pull into a hall and ceiling tiles are flying and there's smoke. So we go, no, we're going to push it in. Trust me, you don't want us to do this.
And how do you route the exhaust? What do you do?
It's just under real short little straight pipes. It's open.
My word.
Oh yeah.
Now at Bonneville, what were you doing there? Why were you at Bonneville?
Gary took the truck up there just to have some fun with it. He took it out on the salt and just cruised it around, went through the pits. It did not go down the 5 mile or nothing like that. But yeah, and the attention it got out there was insane. I mean, it was.
Well, Steve, it didn't exactly sneak into the room, you know.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, I mean, and he's got some more projects coming up. He's actually going to put another one in a 38 Ford Coupe.
Well, first of all, he acts like you could just buy these things anywhere.
No, I don't know. I know they're not easy to come across, especially because historical aviation guys who have got them will not let them go.
They're not.
But Gary has 3 of them. He even has one that's brand new in a crate.
You're kidding. You know, there's a company, Tehachapi, and I used to live there. There's a company, Tehachapi, that rebuilds them. Yeah, it's a famous company.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Well, he has somebody that works on with him, so he may know, but Lord.
Hey, honestly, this isn't as insane as it gets.
For me, that's normal.
That's now that you know the Delta, be ready to cross it. That said, AM/FM listener is going to go to break right now. We'll be right back. More with Steve Mank. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. Rick Titus, Jay Dalton, Spencer Crick, and dear friend and contributor to the program, Steve Mank. We are coming to you from Shelby American. We're very proud of that fact. Trust me, not a lot of folks could have walked in here and said, can we have a studio right here? Might have been family connections.
We have to move 3 cars, but it'll be worth it.
It'll be worth it. So it's worked out really good. And it's always fun SEMA week because Steve and Tana are always coming out to SEMA, so we know we can get you in studio then.
Very easily.
It gets harder as your schedule gets more ridiculous.
But you know what I missed that we need to do again is we got to do some more of the on-the-road stuff where you catch me at a truck stop leaving Autorama or on the floor at Autorama or something.
You know what, that would be good stuff because that's the ugly truth, folks.
Yeah, and we've done it. You caught me me at a truck stop in Arizona a few years back.
Yep.
And we sat there and talked. I'm in a dually, and I think we killed a half an hour
We
almost.
did kill a half hour. It was fun.
Steve Mank, you make your living around show cars. You are currently on the road with Imposter, but you've done many of these. How many shows do you think you attend in a given year?
Good luck with that.
Who-wee. Actually, we still do a lot. I'm going to say nowadays maybe 30, 35. That's a lot of weekends, and it's not just 2 days, a lot of weekends away from home. But when I was really younger and crazier, it was nothing to be gone 45, 48 weeks a year between ISCA, Super Chevy, popular hot rodding, independent shows. But yeah, I've cut it back some. I like having a little bit more. You can't call it casual time, but I like being able to now pick some of the stuff that I do want to do because of all the time I put in to do it. So it's a little more of what we would like to be doing right off the top. Instead of doing everything.
I see Steve just a few days after he thinks he might have hurt his shoulder or elbow in his shop. He goes, I did something wrong.
Geez.
That turned out to be quite, the problem with the Ever-Ready Bunny is it doesn't like to stop. That got serious.
Yeah, right at SEMA last year, we had a small accident at the shop where literally the day before we were leaving to come to SEMA, we were taking a brand new Tremec 6-speed and putting it behind a brand new 400 stroker motor. We're building a 69 GTO. I told the owner of the car, who's a car guy, he knows what he's doing, got it up on my lift. Let's just see if this transmission will fall into place. If not, I can hit my buddies up at American Powertrain at SEMA and get what I need and bring it home. And so let's just make it fit. See if it'll drop in. See if it'll go through the throttle bearing and fall into the pilot, And we get it up there, up underneath the lift, and Mark lost his footing. And it was just one of those things. I mean, you do this stuff, it happens. And like an idiot, instead of letting the transmission, $6,000.
Thank you. That's where
floor.
the idiot part comes out
hit
of
the
it.
floor. By reflex, I tried to catch it, not to catch it and hold it, but to slow it down on its trip to the floor. Well, I did that by myself. And when I stood up, my left arm, which I'm a southpaw, did nothing. So yeah, I lost 5 months at the beginning of this year where I literally was told by my surgeon, who's a personal friend and a car guy, that I literally was to do nothing because if I had
It's
to be
so weird, but I see Mank. He's not in a cast. He's not in a sling. He just goes, "Hey, Rick, go easy," because I think I hurt my left side. You think?
Yeah, but 5 months of not being able to go in the shop and point the finger. It was not fun. Not fun.
So you're on the road with Imposter. We started to tell people exactly what this was. Chip Foose's car. Now, first, this won the Riddler Award in what year? Was it 2010?
2015. Yeah, got 3 years already.
And this car is still talked about.
2015.
Because this took a few years to build this.
Almost 7 years, but not because of complexity or degree of build. What happened was Don and Elma Voth, who commissioned the car to Chip.
Really nice people.
Oh, just unbelievable people. They approached Chip about the project, but when Don went down to see him, what they were after was when Don and Elma, who are still together after beginning to date in high school, had a 65 Impala. So Don said, we're going to redo a 65 Impala. We're going to relive it a little bit. And so it went to Chip's, and it was there for a couple of years. And Don, at that point, found out and became familiar with the Riddler competition in Detroit. So he went to Chip and said, seriously, what would we have to do with the Impala to compete for the Riddler? And Chip looked at him and went, start over. So those 2 years went away, and then along came the progression of the build of the Riddler car.
Usually, a production car of that era does not win the Riddler Award.
Not at all. Especially a big car like that.
A big car. They're more hand-built. They're more early 30s, 40s kind of cars.
A lot of rods have won that award.
I would suspect to say, I'm just hazarding a guess, this might have been the latest model car to ever win the Riddler Award?
That's a heck of a question.
I think that's a real good question.
I'd have to research that. I have not been asked that.
How many times has a 60s car?
And I'm looking at my wife sitting on the other side. What year? What was
Riviera,
it?
64?
Was it what year?
Something.
You know what? There was.
Let's just say it's a very rare
but
thing.
it was right in the same thing. It was right. I couldn't even tell you which one of those two was, because it might have been a 64. So you may be right. It still may have been
the
Impala.
misleading thing is, it's no longer.
Oh no! The simple story. What Chip decided to do, because he never stops. I mean, I'm a rank amateur compared to that man, but he got a brand new C6 Corvette from the dealership 3 miles away from his design studio. They went down there, bought it, brought it back to the shop, and disassembled it. Brand new car. Instead of extending everything in the Corvette, in the chassis, the suspension, the driveline, and bringing it out to the size of a 65 Impala, they left that alone completely, including the whole electrical system in the car. Not one harness got opened. And they cut that car down to fit that chassis so that everything was the stock width, height, length of the C6 Corvette. So this car has been decreased by probably 20% in size. If you are familiar with how big a 65 Impala is, the three of us could have gotten in the trunk, and Tana could have snuck us in the drive-in.
Sure.
Now
sure.
the deck lid's not even 2 feet long.
Now, that brings me to how the car, the Imposter, built by Chip Foose for your customer, client, friend, how is that displayed now? Because I believe there's a second car that usually accompanies.
Yeah, we've had, what we've done is the shows where we could find it, where we have, like, if an average person looks at it, they can tell by still the highlights of the stock stuff, appearing stuff that's on the car.
It looks like
it's a 65 Impala.
Right.
But if you set a bone stock one right next to it and realize the difference in width, height, and length on that car, we have guys come up and stand there, and they'll look at the car, and then they'll realize, and we'll spend an hour there. Mm-hmm. Like I've had the car on the road for 3 years, and I still look at this car. And we talked about this a little earlier. Most cars, because of how fast-paced everything rolls over in our industry now, with the way at the pace things are built, you win something like the Riddler competition, for a full year, you can do the circuit all over the United States and Canada, and everybody wants to see that car. And then, of course, the next rollover is coming around, and everybody wants to see what's coming up next. This car has been out for 3 years, and we've already got people approaching us about wanting to do stuff with this car into spring of next year. It's not dying. It's not going away.
Now, incredibly, Steve, do these shows pay for you coming there?
Yeah, we most of the time go as a feature.
As a feature.
Yeah.
So it's turned into, from a competitive car, it's turned into one of the things that people, the draw.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a phenomenon. And even as long as I've been doing this, I cannot explain other than to actually physically look and see the car. And if you understand half of it, it's so overwhelming. That's the thing that I think is just keeping people wanting it.
Well, we were at Carmel together, and it was Steve that pointed out to me, we've been talking about the car for a while, and he knows what I don't know about this custom show stuff. He says, you understand, this car's still in demand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It still blows me away.
I
know the car. I know the owners. I'm friends with the builder, and I even have done a lot of work on the car. And I still look at this thing when I pull out of the trailer, and I can still sit next to it in the display or by the display at the show, watching other people, keeping an eye on the car, doing my job, whatever. And I look at this car, and I just and the thing for me is, it's one thing to look at this car sitting there done, but think about how many people in what all of us do could proportionally in their head know where and how to cut this car so it still looks like an Impala, not a chopped up Impala.
Yeah, unmistakably Impala.
Yeah.
Such a simple concept when you think about it. You could describe this car in a sentence or two. Stock Corvette chassis and running gear. Shape the car to meet that running gear. Mm-hmm. It's only about 16 inches shorter.
Yep. But there's so much beyond that goes along with it to keep it in proportion. Like people, they ask, has a chop been done to the top on that car? Mm-hmm. And we tell, yes, but not really, like you would expect to see a chop.
They have to ask.
What happened is Chip decided to leave the windshields the stock size, so he laid them in. Mm-hmm. When he laid them in, he shortened the front to rear roof line, but he also lowered the roof 2 inches. So it wasn't the intent to chop the car. That's just what it took to proportionally keep the car correct. And the same thing with wheel wells and moving trunk and shortening other things up, just to keep it in proportion. And the thing that's crazy about Chip, he doesn't sit in front of a computer and doesn't use CAD programs and everything else. Everything with that man is already in his head, and he does it in drawings, and that's the way he still does it to this day.
A couple of fun things. They met Bonnie for the first time at Carmel. Tana and Steve gave Bonnie a tour. She had never looked at a custom car. She talks about this car.
A lot of women have had that reaction, and what we find that they like about it, there's a little bit of a luxury look to this car.
Oh yeah, well the paint job,
and then the paint job too. But women who are there with their husbands because their husbands are there, which is a large percentage in what we do, love this car. Yeah. I have answered and had more conversations with women about this car than a lot of guys.
This
and
car
they
is
love
like
it. Women love this car.
That good book, You Can't Sit Down. You're standing there. You can't quit looking at this car.
I think part of it is that people can imagine actually using this car, actually driving this car. It's not far-fetched. But there is another story to that, isn't there?
Yeah, we come back more on that very topic. AM/FM listeners, we'll be right back. And welcome back to Driver's Talk. Rick Titus, Jay Dalton, Spencer Crick, and special guest in studio with his lovely bride, Steve Mank. We've been talking about a car that until you go to our site and see the photos, you're just not going to be able to appreciate or relate to. And if you ever want to get a tour of a new topic, I don't care what it is, Mank's the guy you want. He has a way of taking very complicated stuff and simplifying it so it's easy and makes you want to get into it.
Only because that's the only way I understand it.
Well, no, I understood that. I mean, you're this close to, sounds like, no, just does a hell of a job. But you told me a story up at Carmel when we were in that car show right down there in downtown Carmel about one time the owners walked in and their car's in a million pieces. Yeah. Because, Foose is in the middle of drawing it down, and to do that, there's not an original panel. You could not, you can't buy a sheet metal panel stock, and it's going to compare to anything on this car. But yet, when you look at this car, there's no reason to suspect it isn't exactly what you think it is.
We're discussing the Imposter, built by Chip Foose, a 20% reduced.
It's a mind bender car that's just stunning.
One of the meetings, it was funny that you brought this up, reminded me. I wasn't there, but one of the meetings, when Don used to fly down once a month from Canada, up in British Columbia, to Huntington Beach to have meetings with Chip to make sure everything was going the way they both wanted it to go, keep it flowing. Don left the week prior, and the car was cut down in some areas, but the body was still a body. It still looked like his Impala. He came back the next week, and it was like it went. It was 1/25th scale on the racks. There was not one panel on the chassis. The whole car was laying on the floor.
That's fine if you're Foose.
They had backed up.
That might be a little hard to take if you're the owner.
And Don, he tells the story, and I laugh. He had no idea what to say or do.
Exactly. I remember I was standing there when he said, "I'm telling you."
You've brought up a good point. The building adventure is as much part of this car as the physical car itself.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that journey, isn't it, with Foose?
The journey with, it doesn't matter who it is. Obviously, it's greater if you're lucky enough to be able to get somebody like Chip to build a car. But on that journey, the personal relationships, which are huge in this industry, that you get and the friends you become between customers and builders, is life-lasting from that point on. I mean, it's a huge part of the personal side, which is huge in this industry.
But your friend, I mean, I know Chip Foose is one of your closest friends, but the car that you gave me a tour of that won the Riddler of the Year I came to Autorama was a 32 Ford or something. It was a family that you're very close with.
Wow, I must be tired or something. I'm drawing a complete and total blank.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, the 40 Coupe, the maroon 40 Coupe. Yeah, Andy Leach built that car. He's got a shop in Omaha, Nebraska. But it also is, it is a relationship building project. Yeah, and it is such a huge part of our industry. I mean, it's almost emotional to talk about it because and they become lifelong relationships. Yeah. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Oh, I've had moments here I could barely talk because of who's involved.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is very, very personal.
the concept, it comes into the owner's head. He wants to do this. He has something in mind. He has to express it to the builder, in this case, Chip Foose. He goes through the years of building and now the years of showing. What's the downside, Steve? Tell us some of the problems.
The biggest downside, which doesn't always happen, thank God, would be because of the extensive travel to take these works of art out there, is accidents in travel. And I've seen them happen. Luckily for me, knock on wood, my own forehead, I've never had it happen to me. Other than that, the only thing I've ever seen myself personally, and it's been a long time, is if instead of enjoying your car, instead of remembering you did it just for the car, it was about the car, the relationship with your family's had with the car, whatever, some people get so entangled and wrapped up in competitions with these things that all of a sudden that becomes the priority. The personal side of it leaves to a degree and there becomes tension. It's a cold, hard, honest fact. And some people, they lose sight of how and why they originally started it, and it becomes the sole focus of what now has changed the direction of what they're chasing.
I'm going to give you another side of this thing, and we talked about this on the phone when I got back. The sad part to me, when you meet the people who own this car, they're so sweet.
Yes.
But they overshot, in my opinion. It's like bringing Mank to your house to assemble a pedal car. You brought too much. You know what I mean?
I'm going to the hardware store to get better hardware because this stuff is not going to hold this bike together.
It's scorched earth because you brought too much to do it.
It started as a hot rod, and now it's become kind of a national symbol.
They can't drive this. This car is too good to drive.
But we have. No, you're not going to take it for groceries and stuff. But as a matter of fact, we did a show down in Orange County that was a prostate cancer charity event about a month ago.
Of that, yeah.
And for the first time in the 3 years since that car was completed, Dawn and Elma got in that car and did the full parade in that car together. It was the first time the two of them were in that car.
Because Elma said to me, Rick, if I drive it and I get a stone chip on the frame, bearing in mind that frame's got a better paint job.
Yeah, the bottom of the car looks like the top of the car.
It does. And how do you risk that? And I felt bad for them. I turned it back and I said, this is awful. They don't get to drive the dream car they built to go to Disneyland.
The only drive they get will be parades and exhibition, laps and stuff like that.
They brought.
But you know what?
It became too famous, didn't it?
You brought a nuclear weapon to a sandlot fight.
Yeah, but the other side of that, because of everything that we've talked about, that car has become, has produced relationships and friendships, and you don't even want to think about it as a limit to what that car can now do or should now do because of what it is. The other things that it has branched out and made so much fun and so long-lasting and so many adventures for both Dawn and Elma, Tana and I, their children who are also big into cars and everything else, I think outweighs the fact that the car's limited operability because of what you don't want to hurt, not because of what it can do, is way, way better. So much more.
Well, we saw you. First I saw Tana, then I saw you. Obviously, a reunion for us. Tana said, I got to introduce you to the owners of this car. And I said, no, I don't really want to meet them. No, I'm not really into that.
But you're glad you did, aren't you?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing, too, is Tana and I have been doing this a long, long time. And Tana is very, very, not particular, but very, very good on who she will accept as what will inevitably end up being a long-term relationship, on whose car and what cars we will take the time to handle because of how much work it is, because of the dedication, because of the time away from home and everything else that goes with it. The second that we first got to know Dawn and Elma back during the project, Tana and Elma are inseparable. It's mother-daughter.
You fall in love with them. They are such nice
I'm along
people.
for the ride now because those two women love each other. So
Well, a lot of people say you live off Tana's coattail.
I do.
You got
This is Steve Mank, and I'm out.
That girl can detail a car.
Well, I'm out on that. I'll build you anything you want. Don't ask me to clean it.
She can detail a car. Let me tell you.
For our audience, we've been speaking with Steve Mank about the car Imposter, built by Chip Foose a couple of years ago, winner of the Riddler Award at Autorama out of Detroit, the Detroit Autorama.
Well, how to do it on August nice, by the way.
And yeah. Is it eligible to win?
No, we because the car is
closeness?
involved with me, because of the fact that
Okay.
I'm the judging supervisor
All right.
and things like that.
Well, that's a
we're
shame,
a
'cause this
spectator.
car deserves-
Well, but we've had it at Hot August. It's been on display up there.
Well, I knew it was
and
when
it gets
before
the
he came to
attention.
Carmel.
Yeah, and it gets the attention and everything else. But no, because if it went into competition anywhere, I would have to completely divorce myself from everything for whatever the event was.
We're speaking about the car that is owned by Don Voth and Elma Voth.
Yep.
Tell me, now the hard question, Steve, is this a legacy car?
Oh, absolutely.
When I call a legacy car is that's the car that goes to your funeral. Meaning, is it going to be in your family for the legacy, for your entire
I'm
life?
going to have a Bug-Eye Sprite at my funeral.
or
Only you.
or does it get sent to the Smithsonian? Does it get sold? What happens to something that is that famous in the automotive world?
Does it go to the Peterson?
Right now, that's a very good question, and it could be any of them. Don and Elma are so connected to their vehicles, and they have many vehicles in their collection, which probably another 4 or 5 had something to do with Chip. Really? And they're all in their garages
so that's how
at
they
their
got
house.
the Chip.
So they that car will, as long as they own it, and I don't ever see them selling that car, will be within their reach. Like, even though we have it now, and we're in the middle of the United States in Tulsa, and they're in the northwest corner of Canada, they know they make one phone call. We take the car wherever it needs to go, wherever it needs to be. And while we've got it in Tulsa, it stays at an automotive museum in Tulsa, and the curators, they love us because they're doing me a favor. I don't have to keep it in my shop. I don't have to worry about anything. It's in their museum. They can advertise it, they can use it, and it's in climate control and alarmed and videoed and everything.
Good point.
Makes my life easy.
Yeah, good point.
There's people that see custom cars. They enjoy looking at it. They enjoy the artwork, but they never see the backside. There's so much involved with the care, maintenance, building.
It never ends.
It never ends, and you're kind of the custodian of this work of art.
And let me tell you something. I've been doing this a long time. I've been really, really lucky, as I've said many times. The first time, because I knew what this car was, doing what I do for as long as I have, the first time I picked that car up and put it in a trailer, and I'm going down the road with a truck and trailer with that car in it, I was a very attentive driver. I've literally have driven millions of miles with a truck and trailer, and but then you get comfortable and you learn to let it go. Just do what you do. Just
do
keep
what you
doing
do.
that.
Yeah.
But it's very, very.
What a fascinating conversation.
As always, my
Show
friend.
cars
love
in
having you
America.
on. Yeah. We love
Thank
having you
you,
on.
Steve
Thank you for
Mank.
taking
Thanks,
the time.
guys. I love it.
It's great to see you guys. We're going to do more together. Please take me over and introduce
From the
me.
road this
From
winter.
the road. We got it. That's right. All that said, thanks for being with us for this journey, folks. This was a special program, and we appreciate that you were able to take it in. We look forward to talking next week. We wish you open roads and safe motoring.
Thanks for watching Drivers Talk Radio. If you're watching this on YouTube, click that subscribe button and never miss a video. Or if you'd like to check out more, click on that video to the right. We'll see you on the next one.